Should you really pay to pray? Religion often sells a ticket at the door. The sermon may be free, but the whispered message is clear. If you really want God's blessing, you'd better put something in the plate. Call it tithing, call it sowing a seed, call it paying for prayer. It all comes down to the same thing. The idea that communion with God can be bought. But should you really pay to pray? A Course in Miracles never once uses the word tithing. It doesn't ask for 10% of your income. Instead, it says something far more radical. Your faith is placed in the most trivial and insane symbols. Pills, money, protective clothing, influence, prestige, an endless list of forms of nothingness you endow with magical powers. Money is listed among the forms of nothingness. Not evil, just nothing. And yet, religion often asks us to treat it like the key to heaven. That's upside down. Think about the logic of paying for prayer. If God never created money, then why would he require it as an entry fee? Imagine standing at the gates of eternity, fumbling for your wallet. That's not salvation, that's satire. It makes God into a banker, grace into a transaction, and love into a business model. And who profits? Not God. Only the institution collecting the fee. The Course teaches, you pay no price for life, for that was given you. But you do pay a price for death, and a very heavy one. That's the deeper truth. Every time we buy into the lie that God's favor is sold, we pay, not in dollars, but in peace. We sacrifice joy on the altar of fear. We trade freedom for superstition. That's the real cost of paying to pray. The prosperity gospel says faith is a spiritual power to bring health and wealth. It says giving money to a church unlocks blessings. It says positive words, name it and claim it, will manifest what you want. On the surface, it sounds empowering, but underneath, it's just the ego dressed in church clothes. Give to get, perform to receive, believe or be cursed. That's not grace, that's gambling. A slot machine in the sanctuary. The Course flips this. If paying is equated with getting, you will set the price low but demand a high return. If paying is associated with giving, it cannot be perceived as loss. True giving is not loss. It's not bargaining. It's recognition that giving and receiving are one. You don't drop money in a basket to unlock heaven. You extend love, and in extending it, you realize it was yours all along. That's the only transaction God knows. The prosperity gospel also sets up a cruel trap. If wealth and health are proof of God's blessing, then poverty and sickness must be proof of his curse. And so the suffering are blamed for their own suffering. They lacked faith. They didn't give enough. They spoke the wrong words. This turns the gospel into a scam and God into a tyrant. The Course dismantles that lie. It is impossible to pray for idols and hope to reach God. When money is the idol, prayer becomes empty words. And yet, money itself is not the enemy. The Course is clear. Should he need money, it will be given him, not in payment, but to help him better serve the plan. Money can serve when guided by spirit. It can be a tool, a means to share, to travel, to communicate, but it cannot be the goal. The moment money becomes the prize, we've already forgotten the truth. Because the truth is, you were given everything in creation the moment you were created. You cannot add to it, and you cannot subtract from it. You can only forget or remember. So, should you really pay to pray? The answer is simple. You cannot. You cannot buy what is already free. You cannot purchase what is already yours. You cannot tip the waiter of heaven when you are the banquet itself. Every attempt to pay is just another attempt to keep the illusion going, that God is separate, that blessings are scarce, that love has a price tag. But real prayer is not words, not rituals, and not transactions. Real prayer is joining. Real prayer is remembering. Real prayer is the simple lifting of the heart to what has always been true. Every idol has a hidden invoice. Every idol demands its price. But the Course says, as we pay the debt we owe to truth, a debt that merely is letting go of the self-deception of images we worship falsely. Truth returns us in wholeness and in joy. That's the only debt worth paying. And it isn't paid in money. It's paid in willingness. Willingness to let go of false gods, false economies, and false bargains. Willingness to remember that grace was never for sale. So no, you should not pay to pray, because every coin dropped in fear only buys another round of the dream, and the dream always ends in loss. But prayer, true prayer, ends in remembrance, and remembrance is free. Picture a man standing at the gates of heaven with his pockets turned inside out. He has tithed, he has paid, he has bargained, and he has begged, and still the price of entry is beyond his reach. For the currency of eternity is not coins, not bills, not gold. It is love, freely given and freely received. Tonight's deposit slip reads as follows: balance due, nothing, balance paid, everything. Because in the twilight zone, grace was never for sale.